The child.
I felt like they liked it. It was some kind of ritual.
September is here, and with it comes a fresh wave of chilling nightmares and blood-curdling horror movies ready to haunt your screen. From twisted tales of possession to quiet terrors that crawl under your skin, this month's new releases promise to keep the lights on and your heart racing. I have ranked the must-watch horrors in release order for you. Number 10, The Conjuring, Last Rites.
Be our safeguard against the devil.
In nomine Patris.
When a quiet Pennsylvania town becomes the epicenter of unexplainable torment, Ed and Lorraine Warren are summoned to confront a malevolent force unlike any they've faced before. A devout family finds themselves trapped in a waking nightmare as their home pulses with violent poltergeist activity. Doors slam, walls bleed, and shadows whisper ancient incantations. The Warrens must unravel a decades-old secret buried beneath the soil of the property, where a forgotten ritual binds the living to the damned. Directed by Michael Chavs, this final chapter plunges deep into the demonology that has stalked the couple's haunted career. Faith is tested, spirits are summoned, and the veil between worlds wears thin. As the hauntings escalate, time runs out for both the family and the Warrens, forcing a descent into holy terror that threatens to consume them all. Number 9, Him. Cameron Cade is a rising star quarterback whose identity is forged in gridiron glory, until a violent injury on the eve of the Combine shatters both body and dream. When the legendary Isaiah White offers sanctuary and training at his remote compound, hope flickers, but the promise soon warps into something far darker. Under Isaiah's intense tutelage, each drill becomes a trial, each lesson a ritual. Cameron hallucinates ritualistic symbols, contorts under unseen pressures, and confronts the crushing demand. What are you willing to sacrifice? As blood-soaked cheerleader chants echo and otherworldly figures haunt the edges of his mind, the line between athletic ambition and occult obsession blurs. In this blood-tinged crucible, Cameron must question whether greatness is earned or bartered for. Number 8, The Strangers, Chapter 2.
I felt like they liked it. It was some kind of ritual.
Maya's nightmare isn't over, it's just beginning again. When the 3 masked strangers discover their shattered prey still breathing, they return with remorseless intent, hunting her across a small town under the cloak of night. With nowhere to hide, Maya navigates dimly lit streets and abandoned buildings that warp into trails of dread, each step echoing with the whispers of her past terror. Derriere bleed shadows. Church pews become prisons, and every reflective surface hints at something watching. Directed by Rennie Harlan, this second chapter morphs claustrophobic horror into a relentless citywide hunt, its promise of sanctuary twisted with the unpredictable cruelty of faceless predators. As Maya races through cold alleys and hollow homes, the town itself becomes an accomplice to fear. Relentless, silent, and ready to reclaim her life with terrifying finality. Number 7, The Long Walk.
How you spend those last moments.
In a dystopian landscape governed by oppressive control, one brutal contest emerges. 100 teenage boys must walk without rest at a relentless pace. 3 failures mean execution, with only one left standing to claim a life-altering prize. Ray Garrity joins the march, bound by honor and haunted by urgency, in a deadly test where camaraderie and dread walk hand in hand. With each passing mile, exhaustion births hallucinations and desperation. Alliances form in flickers, and the line between survival and surrender frays. The film steers the march through merciless terrain, both physical and psychological, drawing blood with every heartbeat. As the walkers collapse and the road stretches endlessly, the long walk becomes a crucible of endurance, will, and the agonizing cost of victory under the gaze of a ruthless regime. Number 6, Traumatika.
The child.
Mikey's night terrors shred the fragile boundary between dream and nightmare when his mother begins to convulse with demonic possession. Furniture quakes, Walls moan and inky shadows twist into spectral shapes as the supernatural ruptures the safety of home. Told in fractured, chilling chapters, each more grotesque than the last, the film entwines generational trauma with ancient evil, binding father, daughter, and child in a ruthless spiral of suffering and possession. Traumatika plunges into the darkest corners of familial pain, where every whispered lullaby can become a maddening chant, and every loving touch hides a predatory hunger. Under this merciless gaze, the past refuses to stay buried, and innocence becomes the price for salvation. Number 5, Rabbit Trap. In 1976, a married duo of experimental musicians, Daphne and Darcy Davenport, retreat from London to a remote Welsh cottage in search of creative rebirth. Their sanctuary becomes a crucible when Darcy's field recordings unwittingly awaken ancient woodland magic. Curious noises stir the undercurrent of unseen forces. Soon, a strange, silent child appears, weaving into their daily life with unnerving intent. His presence unspools the boundaries between myth and reality. As acoustic experiments merge with folkloric dread, the forest bleeds into their minds and music, and the house becomes a stage for ritualistic obsession. Directed by Bryn Cheney, this folk horror debut fuses the disquiet of rural myth with sonic terror, as creativity becomes the conduit for sinister enchantment and unearthly influence. Number 4, The Jester 2.
It is you.
On one fateful Halloween night, teen illusionist Max faces the performance of her life, trapped in a deadly web spun by a sinister trickster known only as the Jester. Appearing at every turn with cruel magic, he transforms every escape route into a stage for lethal illusions that twist mind and flesh. As Max scrambles between collapsing illusions and haunted mirrors, the contours of reality fracture, and survival becomes the most dangerous trick of all. The sequel traps audiences in a carnival of dread where each act is more murderous than the last. The rules shift, the shadows breathe, and Max must outwit a malevolent performer determined to enshroud her in perpetual darkness. One final trick to end her. Number 3, Dirty Boy.
Forever to be pure, oh
Raised within an oppressive cult's isolated walls, Isaac, a reclusive soul wrestling with schizophrenia, finds his fragile identity shattered when he's accused of ritualistic murders he didn't commit. As the sect's sinister whispers close in, Isaac must race through fractured memories and pulsing dread to intercept their next victim and expose the truth behind the lies that bind them. The lines between perception and reality blur with haunting precision, cult doctrine morphing into hallucinatory chains around him. Dirty Boy is a psychological folk horror steeped in paranoid tension, where survival demands that Isaac confront both the external manipulation of the sect and the internal distortions of his own mind. In this crucible of faith and delusion, innocence may be the most dangerous illusion. Number 2, Night of the Reaper. When college student Dina returns to her 1980s hometown for the weekend, she reluctantly agrees to babysit and unwittingly steps into a living nightmare. That same night, the local sheriff receives a cryptic package that launches him into a twisted scavenger hunt through darkened streets and hidden clues. As the pieces click into place and tension mounts, Dina becomes entangled in a lethal game of cat and mouse with a masked killer whose terror runs deeper than anyone could imagine. Night of the Reaper evokes vintage slasher dread wrapped in suburban unease, where every safe haven fractures with whispered dread. As each clue draws them closer and the night stretches on, Dina's survival depends on outrunning not just a murderer, but the very shadows of her past. Number 1, Compulsion.
You don't need to be scared. You don't need to be scared.
A young woman's journey to her stepfather's villa becomes a descent into lethal deceit when con artists ensnare her in a web of seduction and murder. As she navigates this isolated paradise, a violent crime pulls her deeper into survival's edge, forcing her into a brutal cover-up from which there may be no escape. A local detective begins to unravel the tangled lies and shifting alliances. Every whispered secret cracks the fragile shell of trust until only dread remains. Directed by Neil Marshall, Compulsion is a taut psychological horror thriller soaked in erotic tension and moral ambiguity, where intentions shift like shadows and desire conceals danger. In this twisted crucible of manipulation, the veneer of safety fractures, and the only certainty is that no one can be entirely trusted.